By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you haven't done anything physical, yet your brain feels like it ran a marathon. You sit at your desk, staring at a blank screen, unable to choose which task to tackle first. You aren't tired because you worked too hard. You're exhausted because you've made 3,000 tiny micro-decisions before lunch, and your brain just hit its emergency thermal cutoff. Setup/problem. Every single day, your brain operates on a finite supply of executive energy. From the moment you open your eyes, the clock starts ticking. What should you wear? What should you eat? Should you reply to that email now or later? Which project deserves your attention first? To your conscious mind, these choices seem small, almost negligible. To your prefrontal cortex, however, every choice carries a metabolic cost. Neuroscientists call this phenomenon decision fatigue. Each time you weigh options, compare trade-offs, or debate alternatives, you consume glucose and neural energy. By the time you sit down to execute a major goal, writing that proposal, studying for that exam, or building your project, your decision engine is running on absolute fumes. You misdiagnose this state as a lack of willpower, when in reality, you simply ran out of mental fuel on tasks that didn't matter. First insight. The paradox of modern life is that having more options rarely leads to better outcomes. It leads to friction. When you give yourself unlimited choices, you force your brain to evaluate every permutation. Consider how an amateur approaches a problem versus how an expert approaches it. An amateur sits down and asks, "What are all the possible ways I could do this?" They build elaborate mental spreadsheets, debate edge cases, and run endless simulations in their head. An expert, on the other hand, operates on constrained heuristics. They narrow the field down to two viable options almost instantly, ignore the rest, and execute. Overthinking is not a sign of high intelligence. It is a sign of poor structural filtering. When you treat every decision as if it carries equal weight, you treat choosing a breakfast meal with the same gravity as choosing a career path. Your brain cannot distinguish between low-stakes noise and high-stakes signal, so it burns energy indiscriminately on both. Second insight. There is an even deeper layer to this exhaustion: the hidden fear of micro-regret. When you spend 30 minutes optimizing a simple decision, like finding the perfect software app, the perfect workout routine, or the perfect starting point, you aren't being thorough. You are attempting to buy insurance against making a mistake. You want the guarantee of a perfect outcome before you invest real effort. But perfectionism in decision-making is an illusion that breeds friction. Every minute spent agonizing over the optimal path is a minute stolen from actually walking the path. The most effective individuals in history were not those who always made flawless choices. They were those who made decisions quickly, accepted moderate asymmetry, and corrected course along the way. They recognized a fundamental truth: a good decision executed today with momentum is infinitely superior to a perfect decision executed next week after total mental depletion. Third insight. Notice how society glorifies flexibility. Yet flexibility without structure is a recipe for cognitive chaos. When your daily routine has no predefined tracks, every step requires a fresh negotiation with yourself. Should I go to the gym now or at 5? Should I write first or clear my inbox? This constant internal negotiation is an incredible drain on your stamina. It forces you to reevaluate your commitment every single hour. When you negotiate with yourself continuously, friction wins. Your primitive brain will always choose the path of least resistance whenever executive capacity dips. To protect your focus, you must stop negotiating. You must replace active choice with systemic defaults. Practical strategy. To eliminate decision fatigue, you need to implement a strategy called standard operating defaults. Instead of deciding on the spot, predetermine your low-stakes choices long before you encounter them. First, categorize your decisions into two distinct buckets, Type 1 and Type 2. Type 1 decisions are irreversible or high consequence. They deserve deep thought, research, and deliberation. Type 2 decisions are reversible or low consequence. They should be decided in less than 60 seconds or automated entirely. Second, automate your low-stakes environment. Pre-select your meals for the week. Set fixed time blocks for deep work and communication. Establish a rigid morning sequence that requires zero conscious thought. Third, apply the rule of two. When faced with a Type 2 decision, instantly eliminate all options except two. Pick one by flipping a mental coin if necessary, and commit. By automating the mundane, you preserve your highest grade mental clarity for the complex problems that actually move the needle in your life. Deeper insight/example. Look at how high-performing organizations manage complexity. A commercial airline pilot facing an in-flight emergency doesn't sit in the cockpit and brainstorm creative ways to handle a system failure from scratch. They open a standard checklist. The checklist strips away the need to make stressful, open-ended decisions in a high-pressure moment. The protocol dictates the immediate steps, freeing the pilot's cognitive bandwidth to assess the bigger operational picture. Your life requires a similar operational protocol. When you build preset rules for your daily energy, you stop wasting precious willpower on routine choices. You don't decide whether to work out. The schedule says it's 8 o'clock, so you move. You don't deliberate over what project to touch next. Your pre-planned priority list dictates the next action. You transform your mind from a chaotic traffic intersection into a streamlined assembly line. Final message. Stop treating every minor fork in the road like a life-defining choice. Save your mental firepower for the battles that matter. Automate the noise. Eliminate the constant self-negotiation. Trust your defaults. Make the decision, close the file in your head, and put your energy where it belongs, into execution.